where everybody's got some touches there in the flow of the game. Cool. But when we get in that red zone now, we got to be somewhat selfish as a coach, and we're trying to score and we're trying to win. And so those are little bitty things. I think they make some hurdles. I think he's getting the plays in faster. I think they're having more time, whether that was him or Rudolph or whoever else is involved. I think they're getting better. I think having critiqued him a lot on air about, him managing the game as well as being the play caller, I think he's starting to get a lot better. There's still some times when I see play calling on offense where it's disjointed, and I for whatever reason, and I think it's because of more distraction, what's going on with the game, whether it's, him trying to be the, running the team or defense or what have you. It's just disjointed sometimes. But other than that, hey, great performance there, especially from Pollard and Crew and Mason Rudolph. And then defensively, I thought they did a good job getting after the quarterback with some pressures on their own. Naturally, Hooker had a great day. Anytime you have a 2-pick day and you win, that's a heck of a job. Defense did what they normally do. And I feel like the defense gets more out of less than any other group as far as special team and offense. And I say that because both corners are down. This league is tough. And they're getting it done with a rookie and, a journeyman somewhat. So I feel like they're getting by with a lot less and still number one, I think, I'm guessing, in pass defense. And we don't have any elite pass rushers. So, we want to talk about who's doing what and what side of the ball and who's accomplishing and getting the most out of their players. I would say that. Special teams. Now, let me go down this road. Now, they won the game. Now, that Jones kid, I watched him in college. He is an elite returner. That's why he went third round. I remember he went third round because I was watching him because he was a small guy, because he plays defensive back. And I said, hey, man, this guy is tough. So he's just as good, if not better, than Khalif Raymond, by the way. And I would say they gave up a little too much for me, especially in critical times, but they did enough. And I'm not even talking about if they won or lost the game. I'm talking about a response to your special teams debacle to this game. So I wanted to see a little bit more, but I think I saw enough to say it's okay. But the punting game and all of that, I'm still not happy with. Stonehouse still outkicked his coverage. One time the guy caught the punt return. He had 25 yards in front of him with nobody.
I counted 22, but it's the play that set it up. That set up that 11-second touchdown. That was ridiculous. There's a lot I want to break down because you put out the overarching theme of the show, and there's so much I want to get to. I'd like to stick with first just the resiliency, because
it definitely was there.
And I think that's it. Well, I also think it's important after a couple of weeks of us hearing that or questions surrounding their leadership, questions surrounding their ability to pull themselves out. We heard today from Brian Callahan that really the players did it. Yesterday, we heard from Mason Rudolph saying, I went over to them. I said, we are going to win this game. And we saw the offense pick up if the defense had a letdown. We saw the defense pick up if the offense had a letdown. And that's what this team has been lacking, is that accountability, but they're playing for each other. And I think amidst all the speculation, all the concerns over leadership, over fracturing of the locker room, it may not be, those things may not be dead in the water, but they seem to be proven wrong, at least this week, that there should be no concerns of at least that aspect of this team, is that they had their leadership step up when they needed them in a critical moment. They didn't really have a true letdown moment that deflated the entire team. And they had that, they were playing for each other, and you could just tell. And I think that's such an interesting that leads to a more interesting philosophical question about the quarterback situation, the next segment we'll get to. But I just wanted you to speak on what you saw in that regard.
Yeah, it's hard to say without ever being in the locker room, as I said before about that. So, to me, leadership always starts at the top. So, to me, it starts from the ownership all the way to the head coach to the actual captains and leaders on their team. You notice how I said leaders. You don't have to have a C on your chest to be a leader. So I don't know if that played a part more in it than anything else, but I feel like they're finally starting to slowly gel. There's still some mishaps, like we still see the right tackle Watson, some guy just run right around him. Oh, but that was the only sack he gave up, right? All right, so there are still mistakes being made that could be, game killers because of where we're at with the personnel on this team. But they definitely show a glimpse of hope and life that they're going to fight you all the way to the end, whether they win or lose. That's one thing I think that's what made Cali emotional. It wasn't just the win. I think it was how the guys played and how hard they played, especially guys who didn't practice very much, or if not at all,
100%.
and put forth some form of effort like that. It was pretty, I'm sure, relieving for him. But, man, what a resilient, gritty, fighting all the way to the end type bunch. So, man, I'm sure he appreciates that.
And that overtime drive, I mean, imposing your will on the opponent.
Yeah, that was
all the way
awesome.
down. That was because we
how
were
long
talking.
The play drive was that? Oh man,
it was
that
like
was disheartening. Man.
Yeah, it was
that'd
long.
take your soul right there. It was 9-10 play. It was
and
like,
they were just doing whatever they wanted to do. I mean, even
awesome.
Ridley showed up. I mean, because that's another thing where Ridley had 2 catches he should have made.
Should have called.
And then here are these 2 catches in overtime when it matters. And when it mattered, your playmakers.
You still went back to him.
You went back to him as well. Even as a quarterback, you went back to him. They showed your trust in a big spot. And I think that's just. There's a lot of stuff right there just in that overtime drive that really tells you maybe, I guess, gosh, I think Coach Mack may have always say this. You're not as bad as what your record says, and sometimes you're not as good as what your record says.
Yeah.
This was an encapsulation of a team that had everything going against it for the most part, right? Penalties, turnovers. It had big, massive drops. It had all this stuff that happened, injuries, and they still were able to pull out the win. That's really big. And we'll get to more of your phone calls. We'll get to more of the other aspects of the game because I do want to talk about special teams. I do want to talk about defense. I do want to talk about the play calling. I want to talk about all that because there's a lot of good and there's some bad that goes along with it, but there's some stuff that maybe you're not aware of as a listener about some of these situations that I want to bring to the forefront. And, of course, we'll get to your phone call, 615-737-1045. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop, Zach Lyons, brought to you by all Four Seasons Garage Doors, right here on 104.5 The Zone.
Hey, Tennessee, fall is here and is in full swing, and Cool Rate's here to make sure your home is ready for all the fun in the fall season. And we've got some sizzling deals that will keep you comfortable and worry-free all season long. So ensure your family stays hydrated and healthy with free water quality testing, because nothing beats a refreshing drink of pure water on a nice fall day. And Cool Rate also offers a $149 main sewer line camera inspection. Right now, they also offer 15% off whole home dehumidifiers as well as $500 off whole home generators. So let Cool Ray take care of your home so you can focus on making memories. So call us today at 615-709-8699. That's 709-8699 and take advantage of these scorching hot deals. That's Cool Ray, your trusted partner for a cool and comfortable Tennessee fall. And all you have to do is visit coolray.com.
Victory Monday here on Cover 2 with Blaine and Zach here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by all Four Seasons Garage Stores. 615-737-1045. You want to talk Tennessee Titans beating the New England Patriots in overtimes. And we're going to go straight to the phones. We're going to go to Ryan in Knoxville, who wants to talk about the center and Mason Kinsey. Ryan, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Hey, guys. Yeah, kind of a weird combo, center and Mason Kinsey, I know. Came over from Knoxville. Just a PSA announcement here. I was in the game, enjoyed the game, great day. But I saw all the empty seats. And, you know, if you're a season ticket holder and you don't want to go to the game, you know, put your tickets online because there's people like me that come over and actually do want to watch a game once in a while. So just want to throw it out there first. The second thing with the center, I noticed it looks like Mason was catching a lot of high snaps. And I'm not sure when Cushionberry went down, but I felt like it was happening all game. And then the third down in the overtime where there was a bad snap. I'm not sure what happened there. I haven't watched the replay of the game. But what are we going to do at the center position? Are we putting a Band-Aid on it? Do we have a center that can do the job? What's your thoughts there on that? And then the third thing, I'll be out the door. What happened to Mason Kinsey? I feel like this guy has been around a while. I love watching him preseason. I know preseason's preseason, but he just seemed like he had good hands. He was never making the roster, practice squad, put his time in, got activated for 3 days, and then he's released. I'm like, what's going on with that? So if you could just answer that, and I'll get off here and listen. Thanks.
I don't know, their reasoning behind Mason Kinsey. I know him coming up was to help special teams, and he really didn't help special teams on a historically bad day, so they probably cut him after that and brought up Bryce Oliver, who was actually in on punt coverage as the gunner for most of the time. So I would say that has to do more with special teams and his ability to actually play the wide receiver position. Mm-hmm. The other thing is the center. Most of the snaps that I saw, if not all of them, were Corey Levin, which is probably, it's kind of like the first thing when Corey Levin went in, I'm like, okay, here comes a high snap, and that just kind of happens with these backups. But today, Brian Callahan said that if Dylan Radins is healthy, Daniel Brunskill is the center. If Dylan Radins is not healthy, Dylan Brunskill will stay at right guard. Corey Levin will play center. Mm-hmm. So that will be the situation there, unless they find someone, which they are going to actively look for, someone assigned and or bring up from the practice squad if they can't find someone assigned to maybe fill that guard interior swing slot, is what he said. So that's the kind of situation there.
Yeah, because they fumbled that one snap there on, third down?
Yeah, and it looked like it. I think he hit himself. Corey Levin hit himself with the ball on the way up. Oh. I think that's what happened. You couldn't really tell.
I thought it hit the quarterback's hands.
Yeah, the replay wasn't very clear, and I can't really. The all 22 is not as clear either because it once it happens, there's that scrum.
Yeah, well, once you have a new quarterback. New center with the quarterback. Usually they do a lot of snaps on the side. I don't know if they did or not. I was there at the game, but I don't recall seeing that.
When Cushionberry was down on the field, he was over there doing it.
And so you got to stay in there even longer because, he's coming in a situation where it's a jitterbug. Everybody's tight in there. It's third and one. whatever it was. They didn't. So you got to keep your hands down in there to make sure you get the snap because that was another critical play. And, I had to take the field goal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And take the field goal. Eventually won.
Right.
But, that could have been
against a better team.
Yeah, that could have been the instance that we all point at and be like, there you go. Well, let's go to Frank Carter out in Texas who wants to talk about Senior Day at Cumberland University. Frank, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Hey, Blaine. Hey, Zach. How's it going, buddy?
Good. Hey, what's going on? What's the...
Hey, not much. Let me tell you what's going on, man. So I come in from Texas. To Nashville, Titans playing this weekend. Good game, good win, overtime, love them. So on Saturday, I go to Cumberland. Spectator, it's in Lebanon. Senior Day. Let's see what they got. They played all of their seniors but one on Senior Day. As a father or even a coach, and it's Senior Day on your college year, and it's your Senior Day and you don't play them, how do y'all feel about that, guys?
Well, what position does the person play? That does matter because if he was a quarterback, There's sometimes not an opportunity. So just kind of give us a little more detail on the actual
Special teams.
person. He plays special teams?
Kicker.
Oh, he's a kicker?
Yes.
Oh, so he does kickoffs or punts.
But he didn't play.
Nope. But they were their starter last year.
Oh.
And he started the year this year.
I don't know much about Cumberland University football to understand why he's not practicing or why he's not playing anymore, but there must be a reason why he's not playing. I don't know what the score of the game was. As a parent, I'm gonna let Blaine speak on that because
he's gonna let me hear myself.
Well, because I'm not a parent, so I can't speak to that.
But you're observing about football, so I mean, but you
did ask from the parent's perspective,
right? Yeah, for me, I'm kind of that. That to me is vitally important. I'm just got to be honest. Not playing a person to me, it becomes then it's an intentional deal. So I don't know what the kid's attitude was or anything else. I'm assuming based off what you told me that wasn't anything egregious or anything like that. So for him not to be able to run down, whether it was on kickoff, punt, or do something, at least get in one play as last year, is unacceptable. But we've seen coaches do a lot over the place. Let's start with in the NFL where they got to the goal line in 1985 and the Chicago Bears didn't give it to Sweet Nuttin. So Peyton, so they gave it to Refrigerator, right?
Yeah.
See, so it happens all the time. So hopefully it wasn't intentional, but boy, senior day, that seems like that should have been a standout day for all your seniors.
And no offense to the Cumberland University senior kicker, but if he's been missing kicks, are you really going to put him in? I don't know what the score of the game was. So, there's a lot of context.
Well, I'm not even looking at him just as a kicker. I'm like, hey, man, you could put him down even if he's a gunner or he can do something.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm going to run him down on kickoff, and he's the safety valve.
Just give him at least one play out there.
I'm going to give him one play because I don't want him to be able to say that I didn't get to play one play like everybody else did on senior day. Sorry, I'm not going to do that.
All right, let's move to the Tennessee Titans. And if you want to
I get fired probably. Because I'm playing everybody.
If you want to get in, 615-737-1045. So we were talking about the resiliency. We're talking about the show of leadership and the show of all this stuff that they did on Sunday, the leadership, the inspiration, the fighting for each other. And this raises a question. And this isn't a question that I think necessarily has a correct answer. It's more of a philosophical discussion because it's something that we kept talking about last night on Titans Talkback. Like me, Kevin Dyson, and Brent Doherty are kind of like going back and forth. And I'm like, well, I kind of see this way. I kind of see that way. Obviously, this season is about Will Levis. But, and I want to bring this up, and I'm going to try and not butcher this question. So obviously this season about Will Levis, and Brian Callahan's messaging even today is still, if he is healthy, he is playing. But after a win like you saw yesterday, where Mason Rudolph's coming to the sidelines and telling the coach and telling the players, we're going to do this. We're going to win this game. And he goes out and, listen, over these last 3 weeks, he has the eighth most passing yards in the league. Surprisingly enough, Mason Rudolph does. But the offenses look better every week with Mason Rudolph. And we've talked about the bye week and momentum killer that was in week 5. Mm-hmm. Is putting in Will Levis, who I think we both agree will likely 3 weeks of not playing, 3.5 weeks, 3 weeks of not playing, is going to look a little rusty. Is that going to kill the momentum a little bit, or not kill it, maybe delay or put a pause on that momentum? Is that the right move at this point? I mean, I know you're 2-6. I know you're. It's improbable that you're going to go to the playoffs, but everything seems to be trending in the right direction. And does inserting Will Levis kind of like hurt all that?
I don't know. What'd you guys discuss on that?
We didn't really land on it. Brent's like, it doesn't really matter because the playoffs are out. I'm kind of like, yeah, but there's 52 other players on this team that just went through this hard-fought emotional battle together to come out with a victory. And then Dyson is talking about the differences between, McNair and O'Donnell and all this kind of stuff. And I don't think we really landed on anything, but like, that's the thing. I don't know if there is a real right answer because there's so many variables that are real. It's not as black and white, I think, is what people want to make it out to be. Now, the coach has made it black and white, But I do wonder from the player's perspective, from the team building perspective, from the perspective of building a foundation, building on wins, momentum. It's not as black and white, right?
Well, okay.
It's a lot.
Well, I've been hearing this a lot, and I really have to address this. Nobody gives a hoops a heck about anybody else in the locker room, but it's an organization. So they don't care about the other 52. They really don't. They've said that before time and time again, basically through their words of, we're going to put Will Levis back out there. So they don't care. And they're not the only ones. It's everybody else, too. You know what they care about? Winning. If you're not winning, then why are we out here? Well, we're out here to develop our quarterback. You're just a servant that has to go play on the other side of the ball. Too bad. That's the way it is. So all this like kumbaya, like everything, players have no power, no decision-making of any kind. It is not like that. You are an employee no different than I'm an employee at this company. It's the exact same. The exact same. Do we have any control that we got new cameras? No. It's awesome. I love him. Yeah, right. So sports is the same thing. There is no difference. So they make a decision. You could sit back as a player and say, I don't know if I would have done that. Then he goes out there and play well. You go, oh, that was a good decision. Oh, if he plays bad, you go, I don't know why we did that. Yeah. And then this is how fragile, if you believe after one game of winning, that then changes to, how you go about operating with the quarterback. If it was me, I'm not in the meeting rooms. I don't know how healthy Will Levis is. But here's what I will do. To your point, I do like winning. And if I'm the coach, I'm playing Mason Rudolph before and until he has a snafu. Because he will have one. Because that's who he is. That's why he's a backup quarterback in this league. He's a proven one, but he's a backup quarterback. Well, as soon as he has that snafu, I saw Will Levis in there. Because then I don't want the critique of that. Of, we stole the momentum. Then Levis, by the way, could come back and look pretty rusty. People act like you can just go sit on the sideline and come back out here and just pick
that's what I'm saying.
Left out, especially not a proven player.
Right.
Oh, no.
Well, that's what I'm saying here because we talked about how the bye week killed the momentum, or theoretically we both believe that.
I do.
After a win. And now I'm thinking, well, if you put in Will Levis, who's going to be rusty, right? Who's going to, and it's against a Chargers team that is probably I would say statistically a better defense than what you have. Mm-hmm. So they're probably the second best defense in efficiency metrics going on right now over these last few weeks. Okay. They're trending that direction. Now they haven't played a lot of murderers row quarterbacks or anything, but they're not. Guess what? They're not going to play a murderers row quarterbacks no matter who's starting on Sunday for the Tennessee Titans. But at the end of the day, it's like you have all this momentum. And are you going to risk that momentum after such an emotional win, too? That meant a lot to Brian Callahan. And we'll get into all the feelings and stuff like that. But, meant a lot to... It just makes me question, yes, playing Will Levis is the right move because you're theoretically out of the playoffs.
Right, and you're trying to see if he can...
You're trying to see if he can be some... But also, with the way the team is right now, they're only technically 3 games back. And they have all their division games still ahead in the AFC, but they're only 3 games back from the AFC wild card because every team is 2 wins in the AFC. It's not impossible that this team makes it.
Oh, my.
But and I'm not expecting it, but when you have momentum and catch lightning in a bottle, it's it feels best to just legit let it go in that direction.
Well, I get the premise, and I love it, but one game? No, let me get 2 or 3 in a row.
Yeah.
Now it's an easy decision.
Yeah.
But one game is tough. Now, I told you what I would do. I would ease him in.
I think that's where I may land with you.
I would ease him in. And I could even play him in this game. Some serious, let's say we weren't moving the ball. Change up, curveball, get ready, let's go. So I don't know how healthy he is and how much. I think that's why they didn't play him because he looked a lot better, I'm assuming, this past week. And then go, give him a little more time. That way, there are no excuses when we get back out there. Well, he hasn't played. That is an excuse. Yeah. And he won't be as sharp. It's just, now, if you're a proven guy, typically the sharpness goes away after one series. And then all of a sudden, you're right back to where you were, But, a player of his ilk who's been inconsistent in his career so far, boy, the hammer will come down hard from the fan base and everything if he goes out there and stinks it up. And then it's going to be pointed at the head coach. Why did you make that decision?
I mean, it's just and he's been steadfast. I mean, even today, he was adamant about that Will Levis will be the guy, and he was also pretty convincing that with his words of hopeful, he's hopeful, and it was he made it sound a lot more positive than when I'm making it. There was a lot more positive energy behind it. Like, he's hopeful that Will Levis plays this week, and that he's ready. I mean, like, if you were to be a betting man right now, the odds would be like, minus 180 that Will Levis is going to start, which is good.
I would bring him back as the backup this game. I mean, just me personally.
Yeah, I think there's something to that. I mean, because technically he's been inactive, right? I mean, I know one game he didn't dress out. I'm not sure. I don't even remember them showing him on the sidelines yesterday. So I don't even know if he was dressed out yesterday, even as an emergency quarterback option.
No, I don't think so.
And so maybe get him to do that first, and then you wait another game and see what happens in LA. Because the schedule's not very quarterback friendly these next few games. So is it really beneficial to put a rusty Will Levis out there against these better defenses is another question. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm just overthinking it, Blaine. I tend to do that, but I kind of
sound like a coach right now.
I know, but I tend to side with you, and like we have been adamant though. You got to play Will Levis, and I'm like, do you gotta play Will Levis? Like, is this the right moment to put Will Levis back in? Like, if this was last week, sure. Like, you're going up against the Patriots. Mason Rudolph hasn't really shown you much, but Mason Rudolph showed you a lot yesterday. We're talking about a couple drop balls by Calvin Ridley, and he may be nearing 300 yards, and that'd be the first 300-yard passer for the Titans since I think Will Levis at some point last year. So I don't know. I mean, like.
Well, how soon do you want to know? Here's the bottom line question. If you're in a meeting and you're the head coach with the owner, she says, hey, you can make the decision you want, but how soon do you want to know Levis is your guy or not?
Yeah.
That's the only question. If I'm the owner, I'm hands off, but I'm going to ask you, head coach, how soon do you want to know if he is or isn't your guy? That's your decision.
And how far along are you in your own evaluation process? Because I think maybe that also skews my judgment here a little. I can be objective about that, maybe a little subjective in that there's that part of my brain that has already given up on Will Levis, so it's kind of easier for me to give up than maybe the guys
you definitely
in the
have
building.
some doubts because he hasn't done some things you thought he would do if you're the head coach.
Yeah.
He's the one, so I think that will determine if he starts or not.
Yeah. It'll just be interesting because I do think there is there's probably the media is not the only one discussing this. Yeah. It's being discussed in that staff or whoever is making those decisions, whether whoever is in charge. They're all the decision makers are having this discussion every day because they want to win. At the end of the day, coaches and GMs are just as competitive as everybody else, and owners are just a fan like everybody else for the most part.
Just with a lot of dough.
Yeah, right. Just with a lot of money. So at the end of the day, they're having this discussion. And I understand that the messaging is if he's healthy, he'll play. But there's a lot of ways to get around that if you're a coach.
It's a tough call. This is why, you become the head coach, you get paid the big bucks. This is a tough one.
Yeah,
because it was
because you saw what happened with the Colts. They went with Joe Flacco and he looked like crap yesterday.
And I picked him on.
And all the victory laps. And listen, that's probably not the Joe Flacco you'll see. Let me say something. It's against Brian Flores. Let's be honest. Brian Flores and Vance Joseph are the two best defensive coordinators in the league going right now. And I'm not surprised it looked that way. It would have looked that way with any quarterback probably because that's just what the Broncos have done. That's just what the Vikings have done to teams week in and week out for the most part is embarrass them and make them look bad. Which, by the way, the Vikings are on the Tennessee Titans schedule on a few weeks.
Thanks.
So we got a lot to get through from there. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit about the defense and what we saw from the defense. Big Jeff's big day. We'll also talk about the special teams. This has been Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop, Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone. Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Door, 615-737-1045 if you want to talk Tennessee Titans. So, got to call them when they've played really good. If we're going to call them out when they played maybe inadequately, got to call them out when they played good. And Jeffrey Simmons had one of those dominant performances yesterday. He drew 3 holding penalties. He led to an interception. He helped on a fumble. He had some sacks. He had some pressures. Jeffrey Simmons really had a dominant game. His best game of the season, in my opinion. And it really flashed off the screen. Oh, man. And I got another one for you, Blaine. I got to give props. I don't think it's consistent enough for my liking.
Arden Key.
No. I like Arden Key.
Well, I'm just talking about
Jack Gibbons has played really well these last 2 weeks.
You said he was horrible.
Yeah, he's played really well these last 2 weeks, enough to make sure that Jerome Baker. So if I'm going to say that at least these last 2 weeks, Jack Gibbons has proven me wrong in my assessment of him. But we'll see if that's a season-long thing or not. But I will say, if I'm going to call them out when they're bad, I got to call them out when they're good. And they played. Those are 2 guys I've called out for their subpar play before. And I got to say, hey, props to those guys. Jeffrey Simmons had a dominant game. Jack Gibbons has had 2 games where he's looked pretty good. Let's keep building on that. And that's the big theme, I guess, for this entire Titans team. Mm-hmm. Keep building on what you did yesterday.
Yeah, and Hooker as well. But, no, Gibby has played well. You know, that's why I brought his name up last week, not to say that he was an elite player, but he's a good player, a good backup. That's why I was stunned on the special teams snafus that he had, because that's how you make your mark in this league when you're in the position that he's in. And then when he gets to spot play and start for some games or 2 or 3, he has to show glimpses of what he can be. And not just for the Titans, but also for other teams. So that's how he's going to make his mark and then get an opportunity. I think we had a couple guys that left here that kind of did somewhat what he's doing. I mean, I think Spillane there at the Steelers, and then somebody with the Raiders, or that's Spillane at the Raiders. But it was 2 different teams, the Raiders and the Steelers, that left here, guys who did a solid job in temporary play with those organizations as well. And I think he's a great stopgap. If he's my 3rd guy, I'm pretty elated now. He's got to play a little better on special teams now that he's in a starting role. You get to see they go, oh, Baker may be the better athlete, and eventually that'll all come to naught. But, Gibby, he's played solid. You know, consistency is tough in this league because guys are so competitive on both sides of the ball. So they, if you show them out, they're going to make sure that they try to show you up on the next play. So yeah, Gibby, man, you got to give him his props.
I got to give him his props. I mean, objectively, he played a great game. He made some big, tackles for losses. Dr. Gibby, you got to call him the doctor. Gotta call him that. I also say he's kind of like the NWI, except for NWI is a little bit more consistent. But I do want to say something about NWI. That route on the end zone and that touchdown, is it a whip route or something that he did in the back? But with that touchdown play,
I thought he was a 3rd read and he ran all the way across.
The way that he did it, he went up and around like that, and it was nice. I mean, it looked like a designed route. Now maybe he saw something, but like it was a nice route. And I have to say that NWI has thoroughly impressed me. I know that he's impressed the coaches. He should have impressed the coaches a little bit earlier in the season enough. And I don't think that was any fault to him. I think that was a little bit of talent misevaluation. But I think that NWI, listen, now we've had someone call in yesterday, say that he was the best wide receiver on the team. Let's settle down there. He's not the best wide receiver on the team. But I do think that NWI has really found his niche here. And I think that he fits what this scheme wants really well, which is a progression, timing kind of offense. And you've always been able to rely that NWI is going to be at the right spot at the right time and be reliable more often than not. And he's really fit with this offense.
Yeah, well, he's always been a 3 and a guy who's not going to pout, but he's made his oats on being undrafted because he tore his ACL his senior year at IU. and then he came in and became a polished route runner. And those route runners, that's like D-Hop. Those guys are just much more talented than the NWI, but it's just those guys last long in this game because of not only what's in between their eyeballs, but also how to and when to get open and understanding the actual position of where you need to be for the quarterback. So he's always had a knack for that. I don't think any things changed for me as far as what he is. He's just not an elite talent. He's not your, one or two. But in a 3 or 4 all day long, he'll dominate and may fool you sometimes to make you think he can be a 2. But he is a solid player, guy that you want around here because he's a safety valve, let alone he plays special teams too.
Yeah.
So he's got some toughness about him as a receiver, running down, making tackles. He's kind of your jack of all trades of what he can provide for you. I think very valuable in today's NFL. So yeah, he's going to have a home somewhere, and hopefully somebody give him a nice little 3-year deal.
I think they
or
will
something.
here. I see no reason. I mean, you don't have to pay him, a ridiculous amount of money, but I think he's shown enough here and established enough here that if you have an injury, you obviously upgrade the NWI position, whether that's through a draft pick or another free agent or something like that.
It's something like $3 million a year.
Yeah, I mean, why not? I mean, he has shown that he is at least worth that because if someone goes down with injury, that's the guy that can step up immediately.
Yeah.
And there's no reason to overthink it.
Yeah.
That's my philosophy. Don't overthink it. NWI is the next man up if someone were to go down because he knows the playbook, he knows the plays. I don't know what else you could ask for a pro other than that. And like you said, you talk about the special teams. He had 113 snaps before yesterday, and so I think he's up to 119 snaps on special teams for the season so far. He did 5 kickoff returns yesterday and 1 on the final punt coverage, which we'll talk about later.
Does he lead the team in touchdowns? No, receiving touchdowns? No. Where's he? He has like 4.
How would he not? I mean, right? We'll have to look that up. We'll look up a receiving touchdowns, but I'm not entirely sure, actually, but I kind of think he does. We'll see. We'll talk about that when we come back. But also when we come back, we'll talk about the trade deadline as it comes close. A team has traded for an edge player, so a team is off the board for someone like Arden Key or Harold Landry or anybody else. So we'll talk about that. This has been Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone.
For many of you who have lived here a long time, you already know Eurofix has been in Middle Tennessee area for your European car repair needs now for 24 years. We've all gotten to watch them grow. And I don't know about you, but I love watching a hometown business take off. Well, we're now proud to announce the 5th location in Mount Juliet for Eurofix on Mount Juliet Road, right across the street from Dairy Queen. And Eurofix can serve you in Franklin, Hundred Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and now Mount Juliet. Pretty cool getting to watch a small-town mechanic starting in the barn of his backyard of a single-wide trailer and now grow to 5 locations, repairing thousands of cars each month. And at Eurofix, you get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair appointment. And all you have to do is just give them a call at 844-EUROFIX. That's right, 844-EUROFIX, or you can visit them online at myEurofix.com. That's myEurofix.com. I was telling Blaine, did you?
Hour number 2 here on Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons. That first hour went by really quick. 615-737-1045 if you guys want to get in on the conversation. Do you guys care about draft positioning at this point? I mean, it's 1 week because I know people are like upset that they went from 2nd to 9th. Oh, but it's 1 week. There's so much football left to play, and they may likely still be a two-win team over the next 2 weeks because they play the Chargers and the Vikings
to see who we can beat.
They play the Chargers and the Vikings.
Oh my!
Then they got the Texans, Commanders, then Jaguars, then Bengals. I mean, that's a pretty tough, except for maybe Jaguars, and depending on what state the Texans are in at this time, with their injuries and everything. It's a pretty tough schedule over these next 6 weeks. So
they would have won a couple other games that they should have won. They would be, we'd be 4-4.
Yeah, but so it'll be interesting to see. But I mean, like the people freaking out, it's always funny because everybody's so mad, can't even enjoy a win. You haven't been enjoying the losses, and now you can't even enjoy the win.
Well, their enjoyment now in the losses is we get a better draft pick. That's what they think anyway. I don't know if it'll work out that way or not, but the league is set up where you can't tank. I mean, it's impossible. The only way you can, as I said before, is you play your backups. You try to see, and you can typically do that the last game or two to see what you got, and nobody can really say you're tanking. So yeah, you're built to try to win games. Everybody's job is on the line. Players, coaches, administration, as far as, on the football side of it, from GM up. So, yeah, I think, you're going to try your best to win and put your best foot forward. So that really doesn't happen.
I mean, if you're still rooting for a better draft pick and draft pick positioning, it's still lining up and looking pretty good for you. It's still looking good for you on your end.
They probably still have a top 5 pick.
Yeah.
I hate that I have to even say that. I never thought I'd say that.
Yeah.
Not this year anyway.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, if we all know that it's very improbable that they're going to make it to the playoffs, this stretch of Chargers, Vikings, at Chargers, which the Tennessee Titans haven't won there since 1990, the Vikings at home, then you go to the Texans, go to Washington, then you have the Jaguars at home and the Bengals at home. I mean, you got one real possible win on that schedule so far, and that's the Jaguars right there. Like, that's a real possibility you could win that game. I'm not too concerned with them being out of the draft pick positioning. But what you would really like as a fan is if Will Levis does start and he rattles off wins that are improbable, and because he looks good. Not because he got carried, but because he looks good.
Got you. What if they lose and he looks good?
I don't think that's possible.
Huh?
I think that's very improbable with how this team is built on defense. That doesn't seem very likely to me.
So you don't think he could, throw for 250 and no interceptions? Just say no touchdowns.
Well, definitely that. I'll say no on the interceptions.
and they still lose. But he played okay, solid.
Okay doesn't do it for me.
Okay, so I'm just saying solid. He didn't lose the game, but he didn't do anything special to win the game.
Well, we got to get him to start winning the game. Like, that's what you want from the guy. You want him to win you games. Now, it doesn't have to be right out of the gate. Like, it doesn't have to be Chargers and Vikings. He has to win you those games and look good. But if he starts looking good at the Texans and he gets a little bit better at the Commanders, then he looks really good against the Jaguars and looks good against the Bengals, and some of those may not all be wins, then at least you're seeing a progression.
Right. Well, I'm getting you saying he has to. They have to win. That means he has to do something to win the game. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
I'm saying that if I see some consistency, even though they don't win, where are you at with the quarterback?
Well, define consistency, but like that's mediocre. That's not good enough for me.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't do anything special, but he didn't do anything to lose.
Yeah, I'm
the game.
out.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, I'm just being honest. Mediocrity doesn't really do it for me. I mean, that's what I view. Like, that's what you view of Mason Rudolph, right? Yeah.
Gotcha.
Mason Rudolph is a veteran who is a mediocre quarterback, and that's just how I view. I want to get away from that, And I'm okay with maybe, like I said, Will Levis starting out being mediocre for the first few games because he's a little bit rusty. But let's put the pedal to the metal is kind of how I feel.
So actually, you're about to ask him to do something that he has never done this season.
Gonna have to. That's what you need. Time to put on your big boy pants and come to work is how I view it. We're gonna go to Josh in Nashville who wants to talk about hope in the Tennessee Titans. Josh, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Hey guys, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Watching the game on Sunday, to me, it was kind of like watching a rerun of Matlock. It had some moments of enjoyment, but at the end of the day, the Titans beat probably the worst team in the league, and it took them to overtime to do it. And so as a fan, man, I just want some hope. And so it's not that I necessarily want the Titans to lose, but when it comes to the draft, and I think about, Henry, we got Henry because we traded out of the number one pick. That's how we got Derrick Henry. And like it or not, the draft is how the league is set up to staff your roster, your 53-man roster. So it's a big deal. So it's hard, man. Mediocrity doesn't give me much hope that it's going to be enjoyable to watch the Titans. So it's not that I want them to lose, but I just want some hope. And right now, I really don't have much to hang my hat on as far as hope that they're going to be great moving forward. Will Levis, cue up Dennis Green. He is who we thought he is, who we thought he was, Actually, the Titans, the argument can be made that they traded D-Hop. Is that a tank? When you trade D-Hop, D-Hop gives us the best shot to win, the best shot to set Levis up. So is that a tank? I think the quote tanking is a little bit more nebulous than folks think it is.
I think, Josh, what they did in the D-Hop thing is NFL business. They did not want to do the Henry thing, right? In a season that is effectively lost or looks lost, like it did last year. What they should have done last year is trade Henry and got a draft pick. Instead, they mutually decided to part ways. So a lot of people say they let him walk. Well, Henry didn't want to come back anyway. So it was a mutual parting, and they got nothing for it. And here with DeAndre Hopkins, they wanted to get him and do right by him, but also do right by themselves and get a draft pick because they want to build for the future. They want to go through the draft. Like, that's where I'm at. This team can draft well. This current iteration of the Tennessee Titans can draft well. We're seeing a very good draft come to fruition in this 2024 draft. So I understand all that, and I understand the want for hope, and I'm with them. Mediocrity doesn't do it for me, and I don't know what this quarterback class is going to be right now. We don't know who all's going to enter, who all's going to stay. I haven't gone through all the film, but maybe there's a chance that you find your quarterback of the future in this draft with a high enough draft pick. But, man, winning sure did feel good.
Winning felt great. To the Carlos' point, that could be a form of tanking, but here's why I don't think it is for NFL business, as you mentioned, is just imagine if the Titans were already winning and they were 5-3. They wouldn't have traded D-Hop. Guess what? They probably would have gave him an extension.
Yep.
But see, this is the NFL and the nature of the business. He's in his last year of his deal. They want to get collateral for him because guess what? We're not going to re-sign him and we're not going to give him an extension. So why not get value? That's the same reason why I was saying they should trade Byard, Tannehill, and King Henry last year. They held on, and it kind of worked out, with Henry anyway. They got rid of Byard, and Tannehill got hurt. So that's what you do when you have great players that are at the end somewhat of, you're trying to beat the hurdle of them taking a downward slope. So you're trying to beat that, and usually you're gauging it by age. Doesn't mean some people play much longer at a higher level after that, but that's what the organizations are thinking. So I didn't think it was a form of tanking. I think right now, if it was up to me, I would probably have all guys who are good, solid players that are in the last year of their deal. It has to be up to debate if we're going to trade them. Well, Arden Key would be up there for me. I would even have Diggs. I know he's hurt now. But, anybody like that. Now, valuable players who are still young, like, let's say, Hooker, who probably would have a lot of value. I would not be trading unless I got something more than what it took for me to even draft him, which was 4th round. So I'd have to get a 3 for make me feel a little bit better, probably a 2. So I just don't think they'll be able to get
and
that.
I think
so,
the safety market also told us in free
tough.
agency that good luck.
So, right. So I think that's the part of the business side that most fans, because they get attached to the actual players and the names of the elite players that are really good. And I get it. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that they're giving up on, let's say Levis's favorite target. It might have helped everything in the wide receiver room because of maybe he would stare down. Remember, who did he try to throw the ball to? And I said, he shouldn't be throwing the ball to Zaire Alexander.
Right.
Who was he trying to throw the ball to?
DeAndre Hopkins.
Right. See, so it could settle down the whole receiver room and get Ridley is the dude. They gave him the money. He has to be the guy. Yep. And then everybody else falls in line. Where D-Hop, Hall of Fame credential type player, potentially was like, hey, man, but I'm over here. Give me the ball. You know what we did last year. He ain't kind of calling the hoot and hollering, but he's like, hey, man, you know what I can do. So I think that now settles everything down, at least as far as the passing game, and we'll see where it goes from here. But I love D-Hop, too, at the same time. But if you weren't getting an extension, then you had to get rid of him.
Let's go to Luke just real quick, Luke, to talk. You want to ask Blaine about Roger McCreary. So Luke and Dixon, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. Blaine, I love McCreary. Obviously, he's been a little bit overshadowed by Bradley, who's looked awesome too. But is there a way we can keep both, or do you see the team just keeping Brownlee on the rookie deal and moving on from McCreary? How has McCreary looked to you this year? And do you think we should keep both? And love you guys. I'll hang up and listen. Thanks.
So McCreary was drafted in 2022, so 2022, 2023, 2024, so his 3rd year. So we still got him on one more year contract. Yeah. And then Brownlee we just drafted. So, I mean, there's no difficulty in keeping both.
I would. I think I'm keeping both of those guys.
You definitely should. I mean, Brownlee should not give up his starting spot when Cheeto is healthy. In my opinion, Cheeto is just a guy that is now depth piece.
Did he ask that, though?
No, but I'm just saying that's how highly I think of Jarvis Brownlee Jr.
Yeah, and I would concur. It will be very interesting how that plays out, because typically a veteran is not supposed to lose his jobs, a proven veteran, to an injury. Now, he's gotten injured. He hadn't really played at all this season. And Brownlee is definitely the cream of the crop when it comes to this draft class, and he's stepped up in more ways than one, and he doesn't make the same mistake. He's that guy, and he's going to be a dude. So this is going to be interesting. Where do the economics come into play here? And that's because they paid, I don't know what they paid to Woozy, $7 million, $10 million a year, whatever it is. So sometimes that dictates. They may be able to get a pass because guess what? Snead may not still be playing. So you can just put him over there and put Baker down, and then now you still have your 3 guys.
Yep.
So maybe it'll work out that way. But, that's a tough call there. I lean towards Brownlee, but at the same time, economics does play a part in this. And, by the way, who you think the GM is saying play?
Oh, that could be. That could be.
I think he's going to be pushing hey, man, we got to get our money worth. Now that he's healthy, we got to play him. Like, really? Yeah, we do.
Well, when we come back, we're going to take a trip to the Lions Den. We haven't been to the Lions Den in a while, but when we come back, we're going to go straight there and talk about the special team situation. And I'm taking some people to task about the special teams. This has been Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone. That's right. Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons, and we have entered the Lions Den as let known by that roar at the beginning of the thing, of the song. And I am just sick and tired of every week people trying to talk about special teams that don't know anything about special teams, Blaine.
Well, they're special, and it's a team.
I mean, yesterday's performance, everybody had to find a negative and had to talk bad about special teams when really they didn't do anything. And we talked about this let's first start with the penalties. Yesterday was essentially a false start, which qualifies as an illegal formation, which is by far the stupidest rule in the NFL is to take illegal formation and put 3 different things that cause an illegal formation, and 2 of those things don't have anything to do with formation. Like, that is ridiculous. But
it is a rule.
It is a rule. Now listen, call it false start. Like, that's what I'm trying to say.
Right.
Obviously, before the kick landed into the landing zone, Justin Hardy had moved. Clearly moved way early, which has nothing to do with illegal formation. That's just a false start. Like, are we going to blame the offensive line's false start every time Leroy Watson? Well, that's Bill Callahan's fault. Like, I mean, it happens. The other 2 illegal formations, I went back and watched because everybody's harping on that this special teams coach doesn't know how to get his team lined up. Guess what? When I went and watched this morning, I saw that they were incorrectly called. They had their foot on the restraining line, which is the white line they're supposed to have their foot on, and none of them moved until the ball hit the ground or hit the receiver, the returner.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I don't know why I couldn't figure out that word. And then, you know what Brian Callahan says today? The exact thing I tweeted. Maybe he's a follower, I don't know. But he said that the NFL wrote him back. Apologized. Because those were incorrect rulings. And then, of course, people like to take that a step further. I believe it was PK said that he said, well, why are they only calling it on you? Well, there's been 18 teams that have had illegal formations called upon them across the NFL. And I don't know if all 18 are bogus or anything. I did not go watch everybody's individual play.
You did?
But no. But Miami has 4. Tennessee Titans have 3, and we know 2 are bogus. So can we, let's look at the special teams coverage yesterday and look at what the real issue was for yesterday. And I'm not saying this is the issue every time that there is a punt.
Yesterday.
But yesterday, the 2 punt returns were less than 4.2 seconds. I hate to have to tell you hang time. Less than 4.2 seconds. I hate to tell anybody, unless you got Tyreek Hill and Xavier Worthy out there as gunners, it's going to be really hard for someone to get down there in 4.2 seconds. The first punt return, the closest defender was 11 yards away. The second punt return was 22 to 25 yards away was the closest defender, and that's when they got double teamed at the line. We got to get some hang time on these punts, and we have heard it time and time again that distance seems to be not an issue, but hang time and directional over these last 2 regimes has been an issue with Ryan Stonehouse, and he's got to start helping himself and helping his gunners to get down there, because when you got Marcus Jones and one of the best punt return units in the league, and they were special teams ecstasy yesterday. They built off blocks because it was so easy. They built walls. It was awesome to watch.
Like they put on the board.
They put it on the board. I mean, they did it exactly like they put it on the board. And look Luke Gifford on the first one. You know, Luke Gifford, he on that first return that went for a big yard, he messed up on his ankle and got his ankles broke by Marcus Jones. And then on the second one, it was just that hang time is just dreadful. Like, if you're going to complain about special teams, start watching the special teams film. That's where I'm at. And all 22 is accessible. You can watch special teams film, and you don't have to be a special teams genius to see that there is an issue. But who's one of the best special teams coaches in the NFL? Bones Fassel, right? John Fassel over at Dallas. One of the most respected guys, been doing it for a long time. 16 special teams penalties leads the league. Titans are at 11. It's a big issue across the league, special teams penalties right now. It's not just the Titans. Get out of your little snow globe. Now, listen, this does not excuse the historical meltdown last week. I want to keep that in mind. But there are some individual brain farts that happen. And I have to say, when you go back and watch the film, when you see what actually leads to some of these big returns, it's not scheme. It's just not. And yesterday was clearly not scheme. And they, like you said earlier, they looked better. They had a better answer, better bounce back. They put in Bryce Oliver and Justin Hardy at gunners. They put in guys that are fast, that want it. And then I think that helps. I think the little things they had helped.
Well,
so I just want to throw that.
Yeah, right. First of all, anybody call in that they want to put in the Lions Den.
If you got someone that wants to go in the Lions Den, 615.
Because this is a new episode that is in honor of yours truly, Zach Lyons. That's why it's called the Lions Den. That's why you heard the roar there by Sammy with the, it's not a kitty cat, it's a lion roaring. So anybody, good or bad, if you want to put them in the Lions Den, that is cool with us. For me, the Lions Den, I always love picking great players because with great players is great expectations. And for me, I have to see a game where Ridley is targeted multiple times and he catches them all for $90 million. I just want you to catch them all, bro. I just know you can, and that's a concentration issue. Both times you were looking to see where the guy, you could see it, and I'm sure you just look it all the way in. Sometimes it's a little nuance because you know you got it, and then you start looking for your next move or who's about to hit you and how you about to sliver, the hit and everything else. So I just want to see his greatness just even be bigger because I think he's got it in him. It's now just about a concentration issue because it's been consistent that he has some drops. There's no doubt they're dead in his hands. So I just want to see him catch them all that are catchable.
I will say this. I agree with you on there because there were two. I mean, they were off-target throws, but you're paid to catch them. Yeah. And that's been the problem with Ridley. That's been a problem throughout his career is that sometimes he has those things. But he did show up at the critical time. I do want to go back, though, to special teams real quick. So I went back and watched the Colts game where the first illegal formation called on the Tennessee Titans was. That coach over, and I believe it's Shane Steichen, you can't really see on the All-22, but he should have gotten unsportsmanlike conduct because he was on the field when the ball was in the air on the kickoff.
Because he was yelling it should be a penalty?
It should be a penalty, and the guys that he can see in his view.
You can't even see them.
Well, the guys that he can see in the view are all lined up, and they're all still. So, and he was in the ref's ear before the play even started, and everybody is correctly lined up. And I think he got into the head of the ref that called it. But also, he's on the field when it starts, so that should have been unsportsmanlike conduct.
Oh, well. Yeah, well, they try to give him a little pass. He was critiquing, and the referee probably thought he had a bad call, and he was like, oh, wait, what are you talking about there, coach?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. With all these snafus with this kickoff rule, is it because they don't understand the rule? This is kind of interesting. This is some consistency in these.
They don't even understand pass interference. They don't understand what a catch is. So are we really surprised that they don't know how to actually rule an entirely new kickoff format?
I was trying to give them credit for a new rule, but now you're saying...
think about it. Think about it. Think about all the wrong calls of rules that have been established over time. They can't even get those right.
It's a tough job.
It is a tough job.
Maybe we should go down there and be part-time, referees. Just
much like the PR department, we should be, part-time PR group, part-time referees. What do you think?
Dang, man, this is horrible. And I don't complain about refereeing, but man, these last 2 years I have complained about refereeing, man. And this year haven't even started. It's just like, what are these guys? What are they doing for training?
I mean, the league is making up the kickoff rule as it goes.
They go.
What they will enforce. When's the last time you've heard of a coach get up there and say, yeah, those two plays they called, they were wrong? What about when the whole thing went down on the onside kick and they had to write an entire thesis and make up a new rule that wasn't in the rule book to begin with over the Jaquan Jackson onside kick? This rule was not ready to be released. It was not ready to be enacted. They already want to make changes for next season because it's a failure and it's easily circumventable. So, this is a failure of epic proportions. And I am not surprised that illegal formations, first off, with multiple ways to violate, and one of them being leaving or a false start, essentially, which is what happened yesterday, which was clear as day on tape.
It was.
And even Coach Mack said it on the radio. But, like, I'm not surprised that there's probably more illegal formations. I would have to say there's already probably, 5 times more illegal formations called so far than what has been on the previous kickoff rule last year. The formation, it has to be. Like, I just can't imagine this referee group getting this right, a new rule right, this quick.
Well, now that we have a bad schedule, a record, we're going to get all the bad referees. Just that's rest assured of that. So I don't even know if it'll get better. They'll find a way to make a phantom call. Remember what was the phantom holding call on Skoronski? What game was that? That was a couple games ago.
That was the last game on the screen pass.
Man, what are they doing here? That call we couldn't afford to not have that play.
And look, the referee had 18 penalties called yesterday, and this was already the number one group, not just on Titans, on both teams, but this was the number one group already on holding, offensive holding and defensive holding. They had holding calls like crazy, and they called every little ticky-tacky hold that other places would probably just let go. And, listen, I understand that. I mean, that's not going to get you into the Super Bowl. Like, these refs are graded, and with errors to try to get into the playoffs in the Super Bowl. This group is probably, listen, it's Titans and Patriots, so we probably got the Z group out there. Not even the A group or the B group, the Z group out there at ref. And it showed. Like, they were terrible, I thought. And then, of course, everybody just wants to blame, well, the Titans are just sloppy. Yeah. Well, I mean, this is both sides of the coin, and it's been like that for this crew at every stop. So is it every team just suddenly sloppy when this crew arrives?
No. It was 10 penalties for 67 yards for the Titans and 8 for 58 for yours truly, the Patriots there. That was a lot of penalties. Between slowing the game down and injuries and everything, man, they're making these games, boy, kind of horrific to watch here, man. Not just the Titans game. I'm talking about all other games, too. I'm seeing the same things across the board. So, but it's a tough gig. But, man, they keep changing the rules, and then that means that the referees really don't know the rules for the kickoff.
I think the rules are too vague.
They need to go ask XFL. Yeah. Well, half the stuff is like reading, like you're trying to get a law degree. Like, well, what did you really say right here in this sentence?
Yeah. I mean, it's some of it's either too complicated or too vague. Yeah. And there is no in between. 615-737-1045. If you want to put someone in the lion's den as well. I'm just like, I understand special teams has not been perfect. I totally understand. A lot of the plays can be boiled down to someone having a brain fart. Like yesterday, Otis Reese was in on 5. He was a left winger on 5 punt coverage units with Ryan Stonehouse out there. For the first 4, he engages his rusher, blocks him, knocks him off the path, and runs down the field because the ball's been kicked. On the very last play, the 5th play, he decided to dive at the guy's cut block, instead of doing what he did the previous 4 times, and it almost got blocked. That punt almost got blocked. Now,
watch this.
That's an Otis Reese thing. Like, what is that guy doing?
No. Hold on.
Come on. That is an Otis Reese thing.
Watch this. Out of the 5 reps you just named, did he win all of them? Yes, he did.
Oh, come on, Blaine. Come on. Did he really win?
He won. He might have had a curveball and overthought it on the last one because he had, oh man, this guy's gonna have something up his sleeve for this last one, so I gotta do something else. He overthought it and dove it, but he didn't get it didn't get blocked.
It was so close.
It was so close in hand grenades and.
All right. Hey, listen. But we've seen a lot of explosions on this podcast.
On film, though, they're definitely going to call him out. They're going to say, "Hey, man, why did you do this?" And he's going to give him his reason, and it's not going to be good enough. But hey, just stick with what we know, what we taught you.
Yeah.
But every now and then, and it could have been the actual player. It could have been a different player coming in. He's like, oh, man, this dude is big. I better cut block him. Because I played that wing spot, and there's times that you do want to cut. I hardly ever wanted to cut block because I didn't want to get off the freaking ground and then go run. Nope. I'm going to go push through you, and I'm going to go run down and stay in my lane. to go make the tackle on punt coverage. So, yeah, the wing is probably the toughest job because you got to learn how to use the guy in front of you. Really, it's like a offensive tackle, and you're just an offset tight end.
Now, Otis Reese is 6'3", 214.
I know he's a linebacker.
Guy.
Yeah, he got a good athlete too. Yeah, well, I mean, you just never know. He could, he just wanted to do a changeup. But at the same time, why did you see? If I'm the special team coach, I'm asking, okay, I'm cool with what you did, but why did you do that? And see, there's a why, and then now you can now understand how he thinks, and then you say, well, don't do that ever again. And if he gives you a reasonable answer, you go, well, I didn't see that, but I would prefer that you didn't do that.
Do you approach it with a prefer, or do you say, hey, listen, man, our special teams have been bad. You can't do that.
Well, it depends. There's a lot of factors that I don't know. I said I don't know about who was rushing. I don't know. Maybe he was hurt his knee and just wasn't the normal, like the other 4 reps. Yeah. That happens in the game, and guys just fighting through, and he's like, man, my knee right now. As soon as I'm playing, this dude bull rushed me. He might have run me over. So that, you don't know what was going on. He could tell him, hey, man, I hurt my knee on the last, kickoff. And so I was just trying to make sure I managed to, and I didn't want to put any more weight on it. So I just dove at his legs and figured that'd be enough to get the kickoff. So there's a lot of factors. I can't just look and say, oh, man, he just dove. Why did he do that? He never done that before. Well, I can say that about some of the pulling guards. I've been seeing Skoronski and Dylan Radins fall on the ground and miss the guy, and he's right there in front of him. How did you miss his ankle?
Hey, we've seen them run into each other like 2 or 3 times, too.
so I don't know if there's no logical reason. I'm like, no, we do like we told you. I mean, so I love hearing the input because then I want them to see that their process of thinking here is correct or wrong, so they won't do it again. So that's what you're really trying to do, to teach them how to, go through the process of why you did this and why you shouldn't do it. I think that's this generation. But I was always the why guy in the meeting. They were like, Blaine, can we keep going with the meeting? I'd be like, no, I got another question, though.
So you were the guy, you were the kid that's like, hey, teacher, you forgot to give us homework? It's a Friday. It's Friday. What's our homework?
Maybe every now and then. Maybe every now and then, until somebody said, hey, man, Woody, why you keep asking that? Because we weren't going to do that homework.
Well, I will say this. This team.
We're going to take your lunch.
This staff, I think, loves the why guys. I think you and this staff would jive if you were a player because Denard Wilson was known for explaining the why. And I think Brian Callahan is all about explaining the why. And I think with the process they did to hire Cole Anderson, I know everybody wants to think that that's a buddy hire. Right. I know that they went through if it was just a buddy hire, it would have been an easy hire. It wouldn't have taken as long because they went and did their due diligence. And I think they truly believe that Cole Anderson was the best guy for the job. Now, listen, if we're going to show grace to Brian Callahan, if we're going to show grace to Denard Wilson through their scheming issues or play calling issues and some things, their growing pains, Cole Anderson deserves that too because he's working with a lot less talent than what those 2 guys are.
And guys who don't even want to do the job.
Some guys who don't even want to do it. And listen, I think that's why you saw Bryce Oliver get most of that stuff because I think he wants to do it. He says,
I think that's who played for Mason Kinsey. To the caller who was talking about Mason Kinsey. Is Mason Kinsey probably a better proven receiver in the league at this point? Yeah, but at this time, the receiver's not playing. He's going to be a special team player. He's probably not going to get but 2 or 3 reps until somebody gets hurt. So, I think that's why they went. He was a bigger guy, and maybe he could be a little more physical for some of those special team and punt coverage that they need. So maybe that was the reason. Yeah. Unfortunately.
Well, when we come back, we're going to talk about Brian Callahan and his emotional response to the game and why we probably just don't have an issue with it. And you guys are probably making it a bigger deal. We'll talk about that later. This has been Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop, Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone.
Hey guys, this is Blaine for Edge Peptide Therapy. And listen, I've been hearing about peptides and peptide therapy now for a few months and was curious. So I finally went to Edge Peptide Therapy to find out more. And they did a full blood panel that showed where my body had some small deficiencies. Then they came up with a tailor-made plan to address those areas with peptides. Since I started my peptide therapy, I've seen that I've had a lot of energy and focus, not only this month, but the entire time. And recovery peptides are great for healing post-injury or surgery, or you can recover from your workouts, joint pain, arthritic pain, elbow pain. Man, you know it. I've had it being a former NFL player, or overall inflammation from old and new sports injuries. So recovery peptides help with all of this. So if you're looking for an alternative to surgery, consider talking to Edge first. And this month, Edge is offering $150 off your first peptide package for new clients. So why not get started now? So go to edgepeptide.com. Yes, that's edgepeptide.com. Or you can just give them a call at 615-724-1878. That's 724-1878.
Final segment here on Cover 2 on 104.5 The Zone. Blaine Bishop, Zach Lyons here to carry you into 3HL's at Shoney's in Dixon for their Titans Ticket Tuesday on a Monday. So you'll be able to get get your chance to win some free Titans tickets to the upcoming game, the next home game, courtesy of Shoney's and, of course, 3HL. Blaine, Brian Callahan got emotional in his press conference, and we've seen him. This isn't the first time he's been emotional. He's been emotional. I think he was a little emotional after the Miami game. He was emotional when he initially accepted the job. To me, this is a big no-deal thing. We've seen Mike Vrabel's nose get red and quiver in certain other situations. We have seen, we've seen coaches be in this. But for me, I look at this, and Brian Callahan is just a different coach. He's a different coach personality. I think of a different generation almost, even though he's, I think, just a year older than me. So to me, I look at it, and I'm like, this dude has been through so much, as a first-year head coach.
People give him a hard time about this?
Oh, yeah. There's people, Tienberg and Fred, Football Fred in the F&M Bank chat on YouTube. And, of course, you can go Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook Live to interact with us. They both freak that. Football Fred says, freak that. This is a sign of a loser, Blaine, that he got emotional. So that is Football Fred. I don't know if he wants to put his last name in the chat. I'll be free to give that out to everybody. But no, I'm just kidding. But to me, I don't think that's a sign of a loser. I think that mentality is the sign of a loser. I think what you've seen is a guy that's passionate about what he does, passionate for his players, and passionate that he wants to win. And sometimes those emotions are going to overtake in such a really, really such a situation, a game where he is proud of his players. I don't know. I don't have a problem with it. You're an old school player. Mm-hmm. You come from a different era of football. Yeah. What do you think about it?
Well, I don't have any. Actually, I think that's what makes me like him. He's more human than most coaches instead of just that same stoic line. So I think, the human element of that and being emotional shows that he really cares. And so I don't see any form of old school. So if you don't adapt as a person in this world, then you're going to get left behind. So you just referenced me as old school. But yes, at the same time, I'm adapting to the new generation of how it works. And I say, man, I really like his authenticity, even talking to the media every time. There's nothing that I don't like about him when he's speaking on the game. And I think his honesty, and eventually maybe it could backfire on him. But I think that's what makes you feel like you want to see him do well because of this natural nature of who he is, of honesty and everything else. So I really like it. I think, and it's going to bode well for him. We just have to be a little patient, hopefully sooner than later, but it's going to be a tough task until you find his quarterback.
Yeah. I get that people are like, well, people are celebrating a win over the Patriots like it's the Super Bowl and stuff like that. And listen, the Patriots have beaten the Bengals. Any given Sunday, a bad team can lose to a good team, a good team can lose to a bad team, and a less bad team can lose to a worse team. It happens all the time. The Panthers just won a game yesterday. And you think Bryce Young wasn't feeling really good about being able to do that? Mm-hmm. It's about... This is a new generation of players, a new generation of coaches, but it's also about recognizing the human element of the game. Mm-hmm. And Brian Callahan his expectation is that they're going to win every game. And his players have not been able to live up to his own expectations and their own expectations as well. We heard it all week about players that say, hey, we're professionals. We want to win. Screw this tanking crap. We want to win. And they haven't been able to put it all together. And they put it all together in a game that they needed to win. They wanted to win, and they did it. And I don't care who the opponent is. If they go out there and do the same thing against the Chargers, that's even better because they use this win to propel something, to build on. You got to learn to win. This team is learning everything new. This is a brand new chemistry, brand new coordinators, brand new coaches. And to me, if he is looking to, I can remember, I think Duck Falling brings it up too. Dick Vermeil used to cry all the time.
Oh, yeah, he did.
I mean, he was a big-time crier. And I'm not saying crying correlates to winning, but I'm also saying not crying doesn't correlate to winning.
Right.
What it correlates to is insight into Brian Callahan, who he is, and how passionate he is about winning. And that, to me, and how passionate he is about this team, that's how I am. That's how I do.
One thing I would question, though, is, everybody been all happy-go-lucky, which everybody should be, but they should be also following that up, but we're not satisfied.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if that was the case, then okay, cool. But at the same time, I hated losing. I could have played a great game, man, and we lost. I'm pissed like no other. I wasn't even pleasant to go to dinner with the fam if we lost.
I just think that, it's a cathartic release is what you saw yesterday. A real human element to the game brought to the forefront. And I think that, to me, is it doesn't mean anything to the big scheme of things, because now you got to go out and do it again. You got to go out and win again. You got to build on this. But at the end of the day, I just don't care. I think people care one way, the other way too much. And they think it's a bad sign or, a big misstep by him or shows weakness. I don't think it does any of that.
Either. Not at all. I didn't even know this was a thing. But, I definitely heard him, and that shows he cares. What do you want, the person who doesn't care?
Yeah, exactly. Hey, listen, we could have just got coach better, play better 50 more times if that's your case, if that's what you really want. Yeah. Okay. That will do it for us. 3HL's up next. They're broadcasting live from Shoney's, and, of course, Titans Ticket Tuesday on a Monday for them. Other than that, this has been Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone. And in the meantime...
And in between time.
Peace.